Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. So what we say?
That's- So, what is how do you want to do it? Frank, what's your okay? So, how do we make it? Uh, how do you make it more deterministic without coverage? Because it's already doing it. Like it will just filter the animation, right? And
But the issue we have
sorry, it
is
will weight the animation. So it will. Now we don't have problem with coverage, but
we do
how do we make it jumpy
we
correctly?
so the problem here is that that jump X scale. You see, we have all these things of 0.32, 1.23, all of these values, right? That's going on, right? When
Mhm.
they should all just be one, or at least or as close to just basically one, right? Because
Oh yeah,
we're
yeah, no,
saying
no. That is only for debugging. Now I have all the X and Y scale to one. Right? Everything is one apart from the Z.
no, no, I know, but the calculations, right? Those values aren't wrong, right? Those values are telling us how far off they are, right? That's why it's going through the
Yeah.
wall. It's not reaching the wall. The problem is they should never be off. What I'm saying, the way I'm proposing is we, um, well, we basically make it so that every animation, if played, would be correct, right? And then we incorporate the fail, right? And that is with no warp, no scale, no warp. Just obviously Z, warp the Z, that's fine. But XY, there's no scale, no warp, no nothing, right? Head kick on. Every animation theoretically is possible, right? Then we artificially introduce the bail. So if every animation when I played it, whichever one I played, thingies, if it said one, right, X scale one, jump scale one, or whatever, right, or as close to that as possible, basically. We know that whenever I flick, whenever I put an input, at that time, it's immediately going to transition to an animation. It's not going to have to wait a second or whatever it is. And I know that the animation it transitions to, if I just had a blend zero, right, it may look bad to change in time, but I know it's going to pass all that all just right. That's when we then incorporate the pose match to basic. So basically, now instead of trying to find one that's the right distance, given a good pose, it's now try and find one that is now they're all at the right distance, and now it's try and find one to blend in the best way possible. Um, and I think that
But
is what's
it's
going to give us.
already doing that, right?
No, it's not because the fundamental problem is we match the pose and then we assess these distance values from the pose.
But we don't match the pose. The
We
pose
do.
is like that. We are not filtering by pose. The
But
pose
this is
is on the like when we choose the when the when the filtering and the weights is giving us okay, this is the animation that you must play, then the pose matching is choosing um what is the best pose for that,
yeah.
because we eliminated every filter now. Like here now
But
I
what I'm saying is the reason why it's jumping and half a meter away from the wall, right? And it's not even anywhere.
yeah.
Like, I know. So we're eliminating this. That's what I'm saying. That's fine. So it's gonna be wrong. What I'm saying is to make it correct, right? We need to
Mhm.
cut each animation at the perfect distance to the wall, and then weight the pose. Because what we do now, what we did before, right, to make it jump is we filtered out at a given pose. So we went through each animation and said, match the pose, right? And then we said, now from that pose, how far am I away from the wall, right? And give me some kind of scale, right? Which is 1.5, 2.3, whatever it is, right? The problem with that is that the second that scale was out of a range or beyond 1.2 or something, the animation would suck and the animation just went out the door. So that's why we have this non-determinism. That's why sometimes in play, the different way of doing this, if we now cut every animation to the perfect distance, right? Then we say, okay, well, cut to that distance. If it doesn't have distance, fine. But cut to that distance. Now we know that every animation is not gonna get filtered out by any XY scale or anything like that. It's all gonna be there, and then we wait. Then we set. Then we like at that distance we see what is the pose, and then we weight the poses and then choose the one with the best pose.
We do that here. Like the phase
No,
to volt distance is exactly that weight.
but we're not cutting the animation at the right time. This is what I'm saying. We don't cut the phase to volt distance is we're waiting like how far, like we're waiting how like the closeness to the animation. So if you go to that phase to volt distance, right, that phase isn't from the perfect. That isn't from the perfect distance. That's from the perfect pose. This is what I'm saying. We do it the wrong way around. We match the pose and then assess the distance and then weight that. We need to match the distance and assess the pose and weight that. So if you go in here,
It's the
if you say
same thing.
it's not
Because
it's the opposite, because what I'm saying is if think of this now. So okay,
the,
if I
it weighs distance to volt.
and how is distance to volt calculated? This is what I'm saying. Like distance to volt isn't calculated. Like so, distance to volt is off the pose match.
No. Distance to volt is calculated from the well, I think it's calculated from the current pose to the actual
So if we because I'll show you here. So like here,
distance to take off, right?
yeah, and then go in distance to take off. This is what I'm trying to say. Phase, phase curve, and in matched phase. This is what I'm saying. We match the phase and then we assess that to calculate the distance to take off. This is what I mean. We're not so we the point at which we assess the thing we're waiting is from the best pose to the takeoff, not from the exact distance. Like we're waiting the wrong thing. One thing we're waiting the distance, right? We don't want to wait the distance because we know it's already perfect. We want to wait the pose. That's what I'm saying. Like it's the opposite.
But I don't think it's the opposite. I think it's exactly the same thing
No,
because
it's so what I'm so okay.
the
So if I
no, like can you show how you how
so
would you want to do it? Because
if I show you this, if I show in here,
yeah,
right? If I so what we do now, right? We
yeah.
say right to take calculate distance to take off. We say match best pose, right?
No. We don't match the best pose.
So what does match best pose do? We in the exact code you just showed me when we calculate
Yeah.
distance to take off.
So
Match best phase,
the
sorry.
yeah. So um so the we get the distance, okay, the uh from the volt from the ledge to the actual. So we got two things, right? We got the distance to the ledge to the distance of the root, okay, and then weight against what is the best phase to volt ratioed by the current distance of the pelvis to the wall. So we
So
already do that weight.
no, so adding match phased here, right? So adding match phase, right?
And in match phase, what is
Here
it?
in your code, adding
Sorry,
match phase.
okay, yeah.
Okay, so I'll go to my filter candidate.
Yeah.
If you look at my screen. Oh no, where's it? Is it in distance to take off?
But okay, we are not doing that anymore, right? I killed it.
No, so distance to take off here we still
Yeah,
use, right? This is
yeah,
we use this for all our stuff, okay? So
yeah,
distance to take off, this match best phase, right?
yeah,
This doesn't take in any distance values, anything like that. It takes in a current phase, which is the current phase value, right?
Yeah.
The sequence, the phase mass limit, right?
Yeah.
So this anim matched phase is going to give us a time in the animation, right? That best matches our character's current phase, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this phase that we calculate has absolutely nothing to do with how far away we are from the wall.
Well, no, he has, because
How?
so
We're matching the current phase, not the
yeah,
like the. I could be so in my animation. I could be
yeah,
here
yeah.
or I could be here.
No, we don't, because we that that is the bit of the the weight that you want to do after, right? Like when you say swap the distance and the phase, we already do it because we do it at the same time, and
Yeah,
I
but
don't think that is gonna make a difference.
well, but what I'm saying is, if so, go with me here one more. So here we pick a phase, right? So compared to if
Yes.
I'm my character is
Mhm.
so if my character is in the phase value, right, is here,
Yeah.
we match to this phase, right? Right. So at this
Yeah.
point, I
No,
have no clue. Say again.
yeah, but we don't, like, this is only the weight, it's not the filtering.
No,
So
this is what I'm
we
saying. But
will wait to the best possible
no, I know. But we'll
phase
go.
and distance.
I'm saying let's go bit by bit, right? So the first thing
Yeah.
we do, so with this animatch phase that we produce, right? This does not know about. This is purely looking at this curve, right,
Mhm.
and matching to the phase, right?
Yeah, within 1.5 phase. Sorry, within half of the phase range, because it's mirror.
Okay, so but it's matching to this phase, right?
Yeah,
It's not matching to this distance of my hand and then the wall is the extra there. It's not
yeah.
matching to any of that. I'm saying 1.5 phases match somewhere in there, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So that has no clue where the wall actually is going to end up, right?
No, but it does after, because
Yeah, but
we
we're not.
have.
I'm saying one by one. I'm saying before we get there, just this bit here has no clue where the wall is going to be. When I go into this phase, when I say
Yeah.
match this, just this time here has no clue
Mm.
where that wall is going to be, right? So
Yes,
when I
but it
produce
will
this
have
time,
yeah, but it will
I know
have
it will. But what I'm saying is now it has no clue, right? So when I go to this position at phase, right? So this position at phase is just going to get me that anim curve value, the time basically. So this is just going to be whatever time I match in here, right?
yeah,
And as again, that doesn't care about when I match this thing, this position at phase,
yeah.
I didn't take into account anywhere in which the distance was, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
But
so
this is because we are calculating only the phase here, okay? So this
this
is
was
the distance to take off, which is correct.
no,
But
this
if
was
you
saying
see when it's used, it will
no, I know.
ratio to the
Hold on. I know.
voltage.
I'm doing it one by one because this is where I'm getting. I think so. A bit. So the position at phase just gives me this time that has no correlation to the actual like where the wall is. Right. It's just like what.
Yeah.
It's just what compared to my pose. Where in the animation pose does it have the best phase? Right. So then I go
No,
ahead
no,
and then
no, 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 no. It's different. Is what is the distance, okay, to take off, okay?
no, you're going ahead. You're skipping ahead. I'm saying
I don't
here
know. This is
position at
what.
phase. Position at phase. Right.
Mm-hmm.
This gives
Okay.
me the root y distance at this point here. The root y at this point.
Yeah.
This has nothing. We haven't even used it physically. At this point here, we physically cannot. We haven't used a single variable that represents any information about the takeoff, about the where the wall is. We've not used it. There's no variable in anywhere here up to this point that is concerned with where the actual
Yeah.
takeoff is.
Correct.
This is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So then we
Yeah.
say
It's the
so
next
now
line. Yeah. Okay.
so this phase point here, right?
Yeah.
Is just it doesn't care about takeoff. It's just like what phase are we compared to where we are, right?
Yeah.
And then we say the anim distance from the phase to takeoff, right? We then say,
Yeah.
oh, where is our takeoff distance? So how far do we move? and then minus the position at phase, right? Which is that route to get how far the takeoff would be from this value to there, right? So now it's looking from that phase to that position there, right? The problem with this is when we calculate this value, this has nothing to do with where I am in real life, in runtime. So this here, this has nothing to do with where I am there. Like if my character's here, this value here has nothing to do with that. This is purely animation based.
A temporary value. We will need to go through the whole calculations.
But this value here, right, is just like this distance I produce is purely based on the animation. So now the problem is, and we basically just use this whole value to calculate distance to takeoff. We just use this whole value, right? So that's what distance to takeoff is. So distance to takeoff has no reflection of where I am in real life. We then go ahead and then weight this, right? This distance to take, like this distance to take off, in order to be like, okay, which phase?
No, this is where you are wrong. We don't weight that. We weight that distance plus the distance to
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So, but it's then it's the distance we go to take off plus what you'd, because the distance to take off is like in to jump, right? With the bit we could can't route, and then so we calculate the whole bit to the wall, yada yada. So we take the jump left plus that distance takeoff, but that distance to takeoff value, that didn't look at where I am in this world. It doesn't reflect it.
Yes,
right?
we
do.
Then
look at.
No, you do.
No, but it can't though, because we don't use it.
Between the distance to the vault divided by the distance with the phase to take off. Like if you look where we use.
But like, how can this value reflect anything in real life if not a single variable that we use in like anything from runtime is passed to it when it's calculated? This is why it's not making sense. So like distance to takeoff cannot reflect anything that happens in here, right? Because I'm not saying go skip ahead. I'm saying distance to takeoff does not reflect anything going on in here. It's purely about the animation.
No. Like search where it uses distance to takeoff, and I'll show you how it's used. Like, look,
the distance
to vault, okay? Right, this is the distance, okay, to from the current phase, okay, where you are, plus this is the hand root IK distance, right? So this is, okay, this animation, right, depending on the phase where you are, is X distance to where the vault point is. Like if you search where distance to vault is used, you will see there is a ratio between this distance and
that's what I'm saying. I know exactly where all, because I use it for the climbs. I know that this distance is the ratio to the but this we're skipping ahead, right? So like this distance to vault is based on the animation, right? It has nothing to do like the weight we use has things to do with the real life thing, but this distance to vault has nothing to do with the animation, right? It has nothing to do with the real time. It's about the animation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This was given so this is what I'm saying, right? Now the issue with what we're doing is when we then use it to calculate the weight, we then say weight this against how far I actually am.
No, we do.
I know like, this will say we do. I just do that. I'm saying we then say weight this against how far I actually am, right? Weight that point at which I picked in the animation. The point I'm saying is the reason why when I'm saying flip it is instead of going from the pose, doing this calculation based off none of this real time stuff, right? This weight that we calculate based on the distance to vault against the distance I am is what is giving us the fact that we don't have the coverage problem. Because if I go into a pose that is like here or here or here or wherever I am, right? If I match the pose first, right? If I wait, because I'm weighting the distance value, right? So I match the pose, use all the pose calculations to create this distance. Then I weight the distance against my real life distance, right? That's what we do now. The problem with that is if the pose doesn't line up, right? If the pose is like here but my distance is actually there, this animation is going to have a scale that's wrong, right? It's going to be like 0.9 or whatever it needs to be. That's why we're getting those scales of 0.9, 0.8, or 1.2 or 2.4, right? Because of this exact reason. I'm either too far away or I'm too close or whatever it is. Yeah?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what I'm saying, the flip side of this is we don't calculate the phase until we know what point at the animation we need to cut it to for that perfect distance. So rather than calculating distance to takeoff from the phase, which is what we do now, right? I say my takeoff, like the point at which I'm going to cut in is I first look at how far I'm away. So we go backwards now, rather than saying like calculate the pose, see how far I'm away, compare me then against where I am in the world. First thing I want to do is say where am I in the world, right? Then pick in the animation the perfect point in this world, where the perfect point in this animation that matches that distance, right? I'm not looking at phase, it doesn't matter about phase yet, anything yet. Pick the perfect point in this. So if I'm 2 meters away, right, go into here where I'm 2 meters away, then
Mm-hmm.
then I read the phase. Then I read the phase value at this point because I know now I'm 2 meters away, right?
Yeah.
Then I read the phase, and then
Mm-hmm.
that phase that I calculate this here, this anim match phase, rather than saying match the phase based on this, I just get anim curve of the phase curve at this given time because I know that's the time at which the distance of the route is the exact correct one, right?
Yeah.
Then I say, then that phase value that I get, I then actually weight that phase value. So I'm not weighting the distance against my real life distance because I know that's always going to be 1 to 1. I'm weighting this value here against my desired pose, and then the one that best matches, that's the one I pick, not the other. Because that's what I'm saying. It's the other way around. We go through each one to pick the one that best matches the pose. So I like pick this one here, right? Assess the distance compared to real life. What I'm saying is take the real life, the real time distance, which is like here, right? In each animation, cut them all at this point, assess the pose at this one, and weight that instead of weighting this pose, this distance here. It's like the opposite way around. But what we know is the difference is with the way we do it now, we don't know that this distance, when we pick the phrase, it's going to be correct. That's why we need the filter on the scale. But I do know that I will never need a filter if I know that the pose I pick, if I know that the pose on which I'm assessing is at the perfect distance no matter what. So I could be two,
We don't
three,
have a
six.
filter now.
Yeah, but like, so we wouldn't have the filter there. You just weight it, so it then be like, I know because I know that no matter what, I'm always at that perfect distance
But,
here. I'm
yeah, but we already have that. Uh,
no,
like
we we don't. That's
yeah,
why we're jumping 3 meters away because we don't cut at the perfect point. Because if we had that, then we would never not cut at the wall. We would always jump at the wall at the right time. This is what I'm saying. The fact that we have a scale value that's calculated and it's like 1.2, 0.5, 0.3, that tells us that it's not the way that I'm saying. Because the way I'm saying would mean that we only ever have a scale of 1 on the X. The pose is what's going to be different each time, not the scale. So the pose may be off, it may be slightly off, it may be very good, it may be somewhat shit depending on coverage, right? But we know that the distance value is always going to be 1 because we're making sure that we're cutting it at the exact time at the point where the distance value is 1.
yes, but if you if you want to then wait by choosing the best phase, you will have exactly the same result. Like there is a like if you say right, like screw that, like because if you want to be sure, right, that you are cutting to exactly that distance, you cannot have any weight because any weight will depend on coverage, and that result I'm 100% sure is completely orthogonal to the ratio that we got now. You will
There's,
not have a different result
there's
because yeah.
no the result is this, right? Because the issue now is we go to a good phase, right? And then we filter out that value, right? The difference
No, no,
is
no,
no
no.
matter
We don't
no
filter out.
okay, so we just wait and we have it where it jumps like half a meter before the wall, right?
Yeah.
when I say we don't filter out the pose, so if my pose is wrong by quite a bit, it's fine. We still keep it in there. We just choose the best
Yeah,
matching
yeah, yeah.
pose.
But like, okay, in the code that I'm running now, I
No, but like
remove
when I
every
say
filter.
when I say best matching pose, I don't just then mean calculate the best match pose from here. I mean the best matching pose of all the animations at this point in time. So I look at 10 animations and I cut to their point when they're this far away. What is the phase value of each one? Which phase value best matches the one I want to do? Pick that one. No matter what I do, the distance is going to be the exact, because they all cut at the same distance away. The wall is 1 meter away. They're all going to be jumping from 1 meter away from the wall, right? They're just going to be in different phases. And I pick the phase that best matches my phase. And I know 100% it's going to be at the wall at that time. Like I know that I'm all jumping away from the wall 1 meter. I'm not gonna have the problem where I jump on the wall and I'm a meter over, or I'm a meter short from the wall and I'm like just in midair, because I'm cutting to the phase curve value I check is when I know I don't look at, once I've decided how far this is. This is when any phase or pose I assess, it's at this time, and so then I go through each one, take their phase value, and be like, the one with the closest phase value to my one is the one I'm going to pick, because that's going to have the best blending, because the phases match up the best. So then I choose that one, because the way now you have they start at different distances, and that's why you get, sometimes you overshoot, sometimes you undershoot. But if they all start at the same distance from takeoff, right, and they just have a different phase value when they start, we then choose the one that which one best represents our phase value, and that's where we go into it. We should, like, if it's, we should never have a case where it jumps and it's half a meter from the wall. That we physically can't have a case where it jumps and it's half a meter away from the wall, because of the exact fact that they all cut to the point, like the point at which we're going in on all of them is oh, my mouth. Oh, okay, one sec. Can you hear me?
Oh, are you back, David?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can.
Oh,
Why
your audio.
my stream is going crazy? Okay,
Your
I think
audio went
your
kaput.
stream is.
I think my audio
Yeah,
went
I
kaput.
cannot see your
My
stream.
Yeah, I think my video broadcast can die a bit. Wait, I think it stopped. Yeah, it stopped. Sorry.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So basically, what Randy about was basically like, we'll never have that case where you jump, because now you have no filters, no nothing, and you jump and you're like half a meter away from the wall, and it's like, what's going on there? But if we have the way we say it, like the flipped way, you'll never have the case where you jump and you're half a meter away from the wall, or you're half a meter that way from the wall. The only thing you might have is like, oh, the phase of the thing is a bit off, right? But the phase may be off, but the distance will never be. This is what I'm saying, right? Because now we have good phase, um, but never we don't ever have, we have an off distance. I'm saying we never have an off distance, and we may have slightly off phases, but we know that the distance is never off. But if the phase is slightly off, that's fine, because we can get that with blending and coverage, right? Like I can sacrifice off like less. Oh my god, my mic keeps cutting out, I think. Can you hear me still? I don't.
Yes, yes, I can.
Oh, like we can sacrifice like slightly off on the phase in order to gain like complete determinism on the like distance, because then it's like with more coverage of varied phases, that's when we can be like, oh, you're gonna find one, like, because we have loads of different ways in which you approach the wall, that is gonna be a pretty good phase, as opposed to when you cut to that distance, as opposed to, oh, we all cut in, but you're too far back. We don't have a single phase. Like they're all too short, or they're all too far. Like none of them match there. We'd have to vary the distance on every. So you have to do a jump from here, the jump from there. Rather than saying, oh, you can all jump from however far back. It doesn't really matter. You can jump from there. You can jump from over there. And he's like, you could theoretically even trigger a jump from back here, right? And the wall's there. And he'd be like, okay, well, we have an animation that you take off in like 10 meters. So it's like cut to that point of 10 meters away and begin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. So if you are talking about like not filtering on the phase in a way that we are taking the hit on the phase in order to go always correct on the jump, then yes, I see that is um, that will logically work. Okay, I was under the assumption that we wanted to keep the phase correct because that is one of our key advantages over
No, and it is. It is.
what
No, this
anyone
is
else.
saying it is. No, this is 100%. That is our key advantage, right? That we fact that we use the phase. So what I'm saying is we gain that advantage from coverage, right? Not from like having to adjust the animation distance. So it's like we the more coverage we have with varied takeoffs, that's when the probability we have a nicer phase is going to increase, right? So then we now the coverage problem transitions from like you can't jump to my jump doesn't look as perfect, right? That is where coverage plays into like the effect. It's never a case of like, oh, it doesn't do it. It's like, oh, it's because you don't have coverage. Like, oh, you can't, you're too far away, you don't have coverage. Oh, you're too close, you don't have coverage. That kind of thing. It's now a case of, oh, like he kind of like did an extra big step, and they didn't perfectly stride in. And it's like, okay, with more coverage, we will find one, right? Would have one with a varied enough take, like the way we step in, right? Maybe we have one that does loads of short little steps that lead up to it, right? Maybe there's one that's like big long strides, right? There's different what we have different like entries, which we already do now. So the different phase values will actually help us like as you go in. I mean, I even think even then we'll still like the phase we match because the distance is like going to be accurate will still match to a good phase, and we won't have that issue of like, oh, he's literally like in midair swapping legs. Like, you know, it's like, but
Well,
the
no,
problem is
with the mirroring,
this
is
this is what I'm saying. So we have mirroring, and we can also add because basically I don't want the coverage to impact. Basically, coverage should impact how good things look, not the fact that they can be doable. That is the main thing that I'm getting at. It's like it should always be doable, right? But the fidelity and how smooth the transition is will gain that from having more varied animations as opposed to be able to match the different context of your character, as opposed to we need 100 animations so that they always have an option to do something. Because like even with 10 drop downs, right? Because like now I'm doing a drop, like I want to just drop down this surface now, and like sometimes it's like one out, like I have 1 out of 10 times, like 1 out of 5 times I do one, right? And I have like 5 or something, and like 3 to 4 out of 5 times I do a drop down, but it's not exactly when I trigger it. I have to hold it, right? It's not I trigger it and it goes into the animation because it needs to match the phase anyway. Like it needs to go into the phase because the distance value is so off. Like I'll be like 2 meters away and it's saying, oh, the phase that I'm actually to you at is 1.9, 1.9. And then I'll be too close and then it'll flip itself around and be like, oh, the phase is actually 2.2, like 2.1, 2. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's constant. You have that problem of like you're always out of sync, like you're just missing each other. Which in turn, then that's what the biggest issue that people are like, I flicked it and nothing happened.
yes, but okay, so there are two things, right? If we wanna fix a flick it and nothing happens, we already fix it. It's like now you will just bail if you're not, into the correct distance, right? So yeah, that we can fix. I'm not convinced that uh, I'm not convinced that we can fix the phase, the alignment problem with more coverage. From performance and memory point of view, that one I'm
But
not sure. Well, especially if we want to do it when we are very close to the wall. When
the, the,
if you're like 5 meters away, then yeah, with with a longer blending time, you can easily correct the phase because you go so much space until you reach the wall that you're bound to, you're bound to self correct with the blending. But when you're too close, I think it's gonna be
But
junky.
I think we have the fundamental problem now that in order to be able to like we have a fundamental problem of like things don't happen because of lack of coverage, which I think is a worse fundamental problem of like things don't look good because of a lack of coverage. Like there's like the fact that it doesn't even occur is so like this is what we're seeing is the key problem. Like because if I want the things to be because like even now the thresholds are still too big on like Z and XY, right, to be able to be like, okay, at this phase that's a good point. Jesus Christ, you're like you need to add at least another 20% or take away 10%, and it's still like fuck, that's a lot, and that is what is causing a bunch of shit. That's why IK looks funky. Like there's all these problems because then if we don't like artificial, that's why we have to do collisions and take and all these extra stuff, right? In order to like we have so many things we're trying to fix, all because the distances are off. Like that causes so many problems. Like when you have discrepancies in the distance, when the distance is smack bang, right? Then we can be like, okay, how do we perfect it so that there's cases where the distance is good and your phase point is always going to be accurate. Well, we know we with like takeoffs, we know like from a distance we can vary how your phases will be, right, in the animations that you do. So if I'm a meter away, right, and I want to flick it or whatever, like you're only going to be in some kind of phase, right? You're going to be in the left foot down or right foot down or transitioning between, right? We can vary that in the animations we capture, but we know that even if we had three with three significantly different phases, right, in terms of their approach, one of them is going to look somewhat correct because you can only approach a wall in so many ways, right? Either my right foot's going forward or my left foot's going forward or I'm transitioning between them, right, at any given point in time. It's not like my phase is like I'm doing a 360 and jump. It's like you're either right foot down, left foot down, or you're in the between. Like really, that's where your legs are. And as long as you're transitioning to something around there, you're going to be good. So with coverage, I think we'll actually get that fidelity. But I think trying to get like actual like ability to do anything with coverage, I think that's where we're falling short now. And like dash faults and all these other jumps, like when we actually filter down, are so not like deterministic and don't sometimes you just run into the wall. Same with climb ups and drop downs and all these things, and we have to add like 30 animations. It's like that's just always going to be a massive performance problem. Because I think if we flipped it with the coverage we have, I think you'd be surprised how close the phases are. Especially if you can like extend it, like if we extend out how long we catch them for, I think we'd be generally surprised. It's like, oh, it just looks fine. Like with a 0.2 blend, it looks dead fine. Maybe on like one or two, it's a bit like, oh, okay, it's a bit, but 90% of them it looks dead fine. You just don't even notice. Most times it just matches to a good phase. Like he's on the right foot when you flick it. He's on, you know what I mean?
I mean, you can try already to do that. I think that is pretty straightforward thing to do. But I'm thinking, so we know that we cannot have the perfect coverage and the perfect continuity between uh, when we do the locomotion and when we transition to the jump, right? So I'm thinking, what is the worst looking thing to reintroduce our scale on X and Y? Well, specifically on Y because X is a little bit silly, but or X is, well, I mean, scale that goes the scale depending on how far you are from the wall, right? Uh, if we reintroduce that, we kill. So one thing for sure, we kill all the filters, okay? And they say, look, we always gonna do it, but if you are, you know, uh, 20 centimeters off, instead of blending in the face, we say, look, keep the face and scale it that 20 centimeters. Like, I'm not sure which one is gonna look wrong. What?
I
Which
think
one
the
is gonna
scale.
look worse?
I think it's the scale, because my issue is I think it like trickles down to like then the IK and then all these other stuff, because that additional scale is like on the route. Do you know what I mean? We had that same issue of like, oh, move further forward. It's like, yeah, but what if my hands are reaching it? Do you know what I mean? There's all these, and we even say like, if we then do it from the hand points, right? It's then like the motion and everything is just off. Like we even said, there's this fidelity that we have and this quality when there is no XY scale. We've seen it a million times. We say it every time. When there's an XY scale, you just know it, right? Because there's this acceleration. There's something that you can't quite. The second it turns on to the second it turns off, you feel an acceleration or a deceleration that is like not quite tangible to explain, but it's annoying as hell. Like when
Yeah,
it
no,
doesn't do it,
yeah,
it's just so fluid. I think with the coverage we have now already, I don't think the phase problem will be a thing. I'd like to tonight get like something there and like just look at the two, because I really don't think, because I think we'll be able to actually vary the animations enough to make that phase thing not a problem ever. Because I think we could do different like phase entry stuff for each type of vault. I'd be like, okay, vet bench, do like one step in, jump, or like start from both feet, or like switch legs and do one like where you're sort of like one leg's up, that kind of thing, as opposed to being like, just do a load of them and hopefully it's all kind of matches. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
do a load of them thing, but like from all bunch of different distances. So like sometimes you're half a leg up from like a meter away, or from 2 meters away, from 2.5, from 2.1. You'll always still have a scale, rather than be like, I'll just approach with one leg or approach with two, like, and just kind of wing it.
yeah. I mean,
How do I let me
you could
try doing this.
try to get that, like to fix the distance rather than the scale.
Let me try doing it. So it's um so this, what's it called? So this distance to take off, I mean, it'll be a new function, but basically I want to I want to find. Well, I guess the first thing that we need to find then. So we have the distance to ledge, right? Um,
Yeah.
we have that distance to ledge, which is the ledge distance 2D. So now we need to compare the distance to ledge against. Well, we need to distance to ledge. Well, in our animation now, we basically need to, guessing this root ty point. We need to take jump length is, oh, distance to vault, sorry, is the hand distance. This hand takeoff distance. Wait, what is it? What even? Yeah, what's going on here? Hold on.
No, but you don't do it here. You do
I know, no,
it.
I know. I'm just looking what where you. So distance to vault here, and IK root y distance, and I'm guessing this is the root y distance. When when is this root? What is this value?
That value is how far the hands are uh, from uh, from the root.
When it first rests, right?
When he uh,
At the start resting time.
at uh, um, yes, at the point of vault. Yeah.
At the point of vault, or at the point of like not takeoff, or it's either at the point of takeoff or at the start resting time.
Was it start resting time?
So when the hands first touch the wall, how far
Oh
away
yes,
is this
yeah,
from
that one. Yeah,
that's when that is.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's okay. So that's what this is. So what I'm saying is we need to take that ledge distance. Yeah. like whatever that ledge distance is.
Yeah, but that one we go already, right?
Yeah, we got ledge distance, right? And so then we need to
Yeah.
take this off the ledge distance basically, which is going to give us like, I don't know what. Say the ledge distance is 2 meters away. We take this is 50, so it's going to give us 150, right? Um, so then we need to get it where from
Um,
hand
if
rest
you
time.
yeah,
Yeah, so then
if
we
you
get the
do
value
it